All right, good morning, folks. Today is September 16th, 2022. My name is John Decker, the Director of Community Services. This is Coffee with Community Services, Alta California Regional Center. We've got 47 participants on so far this morning, and as usual, I will go through and introduce some of the folks that we have here. Right next to you, I see Laura Gorham on here, Client Services Manager. Good morning. And we have from Community Services, we've got some specialists here. So I see Shirley this morning. Good morning. And I see Marty this morning. Good morning. And Cindy. Sorry, Cindy, I meant to say, Cindy is our HCBS specialist. And Denise is here as well. And Gary, a couple more specialists that we have. We have our employment specialist here this morning. Good morning, Carly. And I see Christy here as well, another specialist. And then we've got Scott, a QA specialist in community services, and we've also got my assistant Zach here. We've got our community services managers. We've got Gino Nessie on, and we have Helen Neary, who we are welcoming back to community services. One of our most experienced community services specialists has come back as the community services manager that is replacing our most experienced community services manager, Gino Nessie. And then we also have our deaf and hard of hearing specialist, Rima, as well. So good morning to Rima too. And let's see here. I think I got all of the Alta staff and reporting from Smoke Alley up there, Heidi Dilly out of the Grass Valley office. I was going to do a little mosquito fire update based off of the last thing that I saw from Hewitt. And so if there's anything else that you have to share, please chime in about that. I do, when we have these types of things that are going on, I think it's important for us to at least give weekly updates on these types of things. So welcome all of you. And again, we're up to now, we got 56 folks on for this morning. A few things I want to talk about. I want to address again that Rima has sent out her survey for those service providers that are serving the Deaf Plus population. That went out via email, and so I will see if Rima wants to share anything about that in just a moment as we go through what the other agenda items are going to be. So we're additionally going to share a little bit about what's going on with transportation. Our specialist Marty gave me quite an update yesterday on what's going on with some of the challenges with trying to recreate transportation. And so Jean is going to be talking about that a little bit as well. And let's see, we did get a request for the community services folks. I will say we are moving away from this platform where we will not be using WebEx in the future. We're going to go straight to Zoom for these meetings in the future. Not right now, but we're going to get rid of WebEx. But renaming yourself is tough for some people. Not everyone can. And so, but please write your names in the chat. If you're community services staff, if you're a regional center staff at all, please do that. And we also have client services manager that's joined us as well. So good morning, Christina, for residential as well. Good morning. So we are also going to be discussing again, that the day programs, working with transportation and how we are dealing with the 250 I think clients or so that require transportation service requests for the closure of MedStar. We're going to discuss the the new advisements that we got from the Department of Developmental Services related to SDP, and so the self-determination program, and the FMSs, the payments for the financial management services. Additionally, we're going to give a little update on the job fair that occurred last week on Friday as well. And then also I will have, I'm going to share my screen hopefully, and we'll have Carly talk about an upcoming employment corner that's happening. We've got an update on Supported Life Conference and kind of what's going on there. And then obviously, if there's anything else that folks want to discuss, I know there's been a lot of discussions about tailored day services. I know that's a big one that's been coming up a lot. So if there's other things that we want to talk about, please put it in the chat as well. But we do have quite a bit of things. So I am going to open up and see if REMA survey is something that folks have filled out or if they have not filled it out. And so, Rima, with your interpreters, are you able to share with us what your survey is about? And maybe we can encourage folks. I'm going to put the link in the chat. We do it every time we talk about your survey. So please go ahead. Let us know. Is this something we need to do?
Hello. The survey is just so that we can determine if we need to expand our services for the deaf and deaf plus community, whether or not you are open to serving those individuals. If you're not sure of what supports are available or resources are out there, that survey lets me know and I can reach out to you if you need supports or if you've had services that have been in place. We can maintain those sources of support and be with you throughout this journey. So please do fill out the survey. It will be extremely helpful to get us connected to all of you as well.
Thank you very much. Absolutely want to promote this. I'm going to share my screen real quickly so you can see again, this is not a lengthy survey. This is not going to take a long time for you to fill out, but I think all of you as vendors need to get to know Rima and spend at least a little bit of time with her and appreciate her excitement and her enthusiasm and her technical knowledge as it relates to working with people that are deaf and hard of hearing. And so, again, a very short survey that she has put together here and would really appreciate folks, again, all filling it out. There's a great way to enhance your services to meet the needs of all of our community members. I will also say, sorry, go ahead.
I want to add to that. I think, I learned yesterday that we have a number of interpreting agencies going into day programs and trainings, and we're processing purchase of services for them. So I think if there's any day program or work program or anything that is currently has an interpreter going out for our clients, please complete the survey so we can enhance services if we need to, or support your program, whether you're interested or already doing it. Please complete the survey so we can really enhance things and get things rolling in a productive way for everybody.
Thank you very much, Jean. And I will say good morning to Faye this morning, another client services manager that's with us. Faye Tate, good morning.
Good morning.
All right. Thank you. So I want to go back to Jean Onesi, and Marty can certainly chime in on this as well if between Jean and I we miss anything. But there has, with the closure of MedStar, we are working on some things. And so, Jean, can you kind of explain what's going on and kind of what our hopes are here in the near future?
Okay, sure. So we have, ELTA has an internal process for how we process requests for transportation for our clients. So the SC, the service coordinator, needs to be aware of the need, and they need to complete the request directly. It's called a transportation service request, directly to the transportation coordinators, and they are in charge of processing the request and communicating with the vendors and securing the transportation. It's a system that, it works. It streamlines it so the vendors are getting the request directly from the coordinator and not getting all this outside input from families or SCs or whatever. So it streamlines it, and we can usually process those if we have a vendor within a couple of weeks of receiving them. With MedStar closing, we have identified vendors, transportation vendors that are really willing to enhance their routes and hire drivers. And we have 2 major transportation vendors that are looking at the bulk of MedStar's current clients. So we're trying to organize that in a systematic fashion through our transportation coordinators, where we're looking at routes, we're looking at day programs, we're trying to group the clients so we can do the best we can with a smooth transition to a new provider. There is some complications with this right now, with the process, with SCs reaching out to vendors directly. Care homes are reaching out to transportation vendors directly. Families are, and our transportation vendors are getting requests from everyone to provide the service, not just our coordinators, transportation coordinators. So please, as a vendor, transportation vendor, please do not schedule a ride and then asking for a purchase for it. It's really bogging down our system. And please, if you get a request as a transportation vendor from an SC family or day program, please encourage that person to go back to the service coordinator to submit a transportation service request to our transportation department. We are not able to respond to transportation vendor requests for purchases or confirmation and everything that's happening outside of this system that we have set up. Go ahead, John.
And to clarify the confusion related to all of this, right? For the longest time, our transportation coordinators were the only real connection between the regional center
Yes.
and our transportation providers. But with the beginning of alternative services, many of our transportation providers, in essence, became, categorized as kind of like community-based day programs because they were offering alternative services that were not necessarily transportation. And during those periods of time, we encourage service coordinators, you need to connect directly with those transportation companies so that if there's changes or things that need to go on with the alternative services, you don't need to have the transportation coordinators involved. And to this day, right now, this moment, if you're receiving as a client, or if you are for example, a transportation provider that's offering alternative services to clients, there can be a change that goes on. The client might say, oh, I'm going 1 day a week. I want to now go 3 days a week to day program. And that is a discussion that can continue to go on. But when you have a provider that is leaving, like MedStar is, and we need to bring in a new vendor to provide that transportation, we have an established process that we've continued to share with our service coordinators, which is that you have to complete a transportation service request if you need a new transportation provider to do that route. Like that is our process. So when we have transportation providers, as Jean mentioned, that are responding to phone calls from service coordinators directly for referrals or from day programs directly for referrals, our transportation coordinators have already set up, we need to hear back from you within this certain time frame. Well, we're not hearing back from the transportation providers within those time frames, and we're discovering, and Marty gave me quite a discussion about it yesterday, that it's because there's a lot of connections going on directly to those transportation providers. Hey, you can take on this. Again, many transportation providers, once we put the message out there that MedStar was going to be shutting down, did reach out to us. So please let us work with those providers. And as Jean said, we want to coordinate things because we want to ensure that we're not having people spending, for example, excessive amounts of time driving places, like in vehicles for really long periods of time. And that's why it's nice for us to have the transportation coordinators involved in those discussions when we look at doing things like building routes. I want to just recognize this is not like some easy mistake that was made. This has been a very changed process and a variable process that people have been going through. And only I think through very clear communication are we going to be able to overcome all these changes that are going on with our services right now. And with that communication, that means we need to follow the processes that we have developed as well. I wouldn't, if anyone that wanted to discuss that, I do want to open that up for any discussion if folks.
And
have-
thanks for the background, John, because I think you're right. There's a number of factors.
Yeah, there's a
It's
reason
all
why.
happening, and then we have identified probably 450 plus folks with MedStar. So more than that, but they're not all active. Well, anyway, we're looking at rides for, and there is the plan in place. So if we could, yeah. And
So I
it
will
is a
look-
change. It is a change. Right now, our transportation coordinators, they usually process maybe between 75 and 100 TSRs a week. Typically, maybe 50 to 100 a week on a typical day, just new transportation requests. They have over 250 right now sitting in their query. And we're trying to really streamline and coordinate and pull out those MedStar ones. So thank you. And yeah, if there's any.
So we'll get a check real quick. Marty, did we miss anything that we want to make sure that we share with folks?
Oh, it sounded great. I
All
don't
right.
think anything was missed, just the transition. We're transitioning back, especially with the end of alternative services at the end of the year. We're transitioning back to trying to get back to in-person program, and transportation will be needed. So yeah, thanks.
And things have been challenging. I know Marty came on just as COVID, I think, hit. And transportation's been challenging, certainly during that time frame. But we're really looking at some unprecedented workload type things that are going on right now. When you have this many transitions that are all happening, some of you might remember when alternative services started, we weren't involved in it. We weren't doing assessments. It just kind of happened. That was the way the state wanted it. They wanted service initiation to go on really quickly for alternative services. Coming back out of alternative services is a little bit of a different story, and it really does require us to do a whole lot of work to make sure that we are getting all the information appropriately, to everyone. So with that being said, appreciate the patience that folks are showing related to this, and I really want to just talk about the hard work of our accounting staff, of our transportation coordinators, of our community services specialists, and all of those service coordinators that are having to manage all of these meetings. Across the board, I can't imagine people that are, in residential, adult services, and children's services too, for a lesser extent. There's a lot of people, 4,000, I believe, that got alternative services. And so for a relatively young workforce, that's a lot of work for folks to do. So what do we think we figured out that we've hired 180 new staff total at the regional center in a calendar year. So again, lots of folks that we need to make sure have very clear processes of how they're going to handle these things. Because the workload is just really high to process at that number of IPP addendums. Speaking of case management stuff, I will say good morning to Jennifer Bloom as well. Good morning. I see you on here. Associate Client Services Director has joined us, and then Shirley is on here too. Good morning, Shirley. I don't know if I missed anyone else that joined since then, but let's see. I want to go into the discussion about the Reinventing Day programs. I had a community services directors meeting yesterday. I think it's good to share statewide stuff with you all that is pertinent. So met with the other 20 regional centers, community services directors, and everyone is having these kind of similar type of discussions. How are we looking at supporting the needs of clients that have had alternative services for this long period of time? And now we are looking at how are we going to meet those needs moving forward? How are we going to deal with the workforce shortages that are going on right now concurrently? We have changed rules kind of as it relates to day programs. We certainly have changed rules as it comes to tailored day services. And how can we turn some of these changes into opportunities for the building of sustainable programs for you all? And so that is, I'm hoping, the way everyone comes into the meeting, which is going to be on October 12th at 10 a.m. And I just want folks to know, like, this is about creativity. This is about us figuring out ways where we can make modifications to things that are really going to meet, we hope, the needs of folks right this moment, because we do believe that folks' needs have certainly changed since the beginning of COVID. I see Eric popped on here. And so Eric, I don't know that some folks know who you are. I know you sent out a message to all of us looking to partner as a representative from the Provider Advisory Committee as well. And I like that idea. So I think it would be very good. This is one of those nothing about me without me type things, since this impacts Eric significantly as well, because he also is going to be making these same proposals. But I think it's always good for us to be very attuned to what the needs of you as service providers are. And so having a service provider participating in this with us, I think will make it a little bit easier as we plan on specifically what topics we are going to discuss. As I mentioned, though, I did have an opportunity to meet statewide with the other community services directors. So now I know what other regional centers are doing too. And I have never been too proud to take things from other regional centers that I think are very good. Like, for example, San Gabe Pomona Regional Center put out some very good guidance on the changes to tailored day services for their service providers. So you may well see an adaptation of that as we look forward to our meeting on October 12th, because I think that's a big question that folks have. The utilization of tailored day services in conjunction with day programming, the new rates tied to tailored day services, the flexibility tied to tailored day services with the usage of remote services and things like that. So I'm excited about doing this. I will tell you, I have not been able to connect with Barry Giardini and the folks at the Disability Thrive Initiative, but it's on my list of things during my little break I have today between meetings to see if they might join us on October 12th as well. But I do feel between now and then, we will be able to gather a lot of great information. I know there will be a bunch of community services specialists available for that meeting as well, so that we can kind of all be on the same page about, what is, or, what things require a program design addendum? What are we really looking for in a program design addendum? If we have a number of vendors, how are we going to look at streamlining the process so that we can process the information at Alta, but also so that it does not become too onerous on the service providers as well that are still trying to, run their programs and then also kind of build up their workforce as well. So Eric, I don't know if you have any other comments about that, but I think having a venue like this for us to be able to all talk about these issues and concerns, Cindy can chime in with the HCBS stuff and give us feedback about that. So anything else, Eric, on that, or we'll just be excited about it on October 12th?
No, I think we've recognized the need, and we want to make sure that we're collaborating. I'm hoping to bring, we'll be fully transparent with what we're thinking about and what challenges we're facing and what opportunities we see. And I'm hoping to learn a lot more though from other folks. So we'll do as much sharing as we can, but I'm really hoping we have good attendance at that and that other folks are coming and sharing new ideas that I hadn't considered, so that we can try to come out of it, because it is that is the longest road I see in terms of coming back from COVID, and it's impacting a lot of folks. And with HCBS, with SDP, with all the other things that are going on, I just think we need to get together and support and share ideas. So I'm available. Folks want to talk to me or your staff, John, any way that the Provider Advisory can support, we'll do that. And same for transportation, of course, since we do that.
Thank you. I know Jason, one of our community services specialists, received, I think, an addendum from someone or a proposal from someone as well. And so any of those things that we get in writing between now and October 12th, I think I'll be talking to those vendors and saying, hey, do you mind if we discuss this during our workshop? I don't think there need to be any secrets out there, folks, as it relates to these types of things, and like in any way whatsoever. And the things that Eric might be proposing might be something that DDSO might want to do, right? And DSO might have an idea that Eric might want to look at, and that's okay. Like we are about, we want to be, as I always say, we want to go from scarcity to abundance when it comes to these services. And that being said, I consistently have day programs and services with wait lists that we have to overcome. And so if there's ways that we can be creative, help each other through this process. I think that would be a great way to do it. So thank you very much, Eric, for reaching out and proposing to partner on that. And again, I think our community services specialists are also looking forward to those discussions as well. With that being said, I did meet with Michelle Johnson yesterday, who is our Director of Client Services, and we did have a family meeting talking about the warm transition from day programs. What our plan is going to be is we don't have a date quite set yet, but we are going to look at hosting another family meeting towards the end of October that talks a little bit more about changes that providers may be making to their programs to help, meet the new needs of individuals, possibly to overcome workforce challenges that they're facing. But that was one of the things that we discussed, that now that some of these items, like what tailored day services is really going to look like, are coming a little bit more into focus, to be able to share that a little bit more in depth with clients and families is something that we would like to offer. So we'll be looking towards the end of October, I believe, for something specific like that. Cool. Reinventing day programs. We had a job fair last week, and I will throw it to Carly to let us know about the job fair. We had a bunch of specialists that were there and a number of you all.
Yeah, thank you, John. So it turnout was not what we had hoped, but it did end up being a good networking event. We had a lot of service coordinators come and meet with our vendors, and so it really was a good networking event. Just I think everyone appreciated finally being able to be in person and put faces to names that we had been, emailing with, especially for some of us that are a bit newer. So I think everyone I spoke to was, appreciated that we were at least able to do that. We are kind of brainstorming about how we can do it in the future to get a bigger turnout. So hopefully next time it'll be a bit more successful for hiring purposes. So yeah, I hope everyone who came enjoyed it, at least for, what it was. So look forward to more information regarding the next one.
I certainly appreciate the positivity of all of the service providers that were there that I got to talk to. There was a number of you that have only seen my head floating in this screen here and have never seen how short I am in real life. And so it's nice. It's nice to be able to walk around. I heard someone, I think that's John Decker, when I walked into the room there, because I don't, there's again a number of vendors that I have not met in person or did not know before. And so I did try to spend as much time kind of talking to different folks during it. And I really enjoyed it because I love seeing your guys' merchandise that you guys had out there. I love seeing the excitement about working for your companies that people were talking about. And again, we did not end up with a ton of job seekers, but we did do a call out to service coordinators to see who was around. And so it kind of turned into a vendor fair, which we haven't had a vendor fair in 3 years. And so it's so nice to have vendors in the building. It's so nice to have bringing our community into our building and being able to see folks. And so anyways, that being said, I really appreciated it. And I know I spent some time walking around talking to people about the emergency staffing registry with the Columbus agency. So I see some folks on here already that I know missed when I came around to do the signups. And so if you expressed any interest to me about the emergency staffing registry with Columbus, I did share your information with the Columbus folks, and I did share it with the folks from the Department of Developmental Services. And again, the information is right on our website here that talks about how to join the emergency staffing registry with the Columbus organization. And I will drop that into the chat real quick as well for folks, so they can take a look at that at their leisure. As someone said to me, well, it's a little bit different, because I said, oh, why are you interested in this? And it was, well, we've heard you give the presentations on Coffee with Community Services, but it's a little bit different when you're standing right next to me at our booth talking about, wanting to participate in it. And I think this is a good opportunity to be able to offer some overtime type, opportunities for your staff that you may not be able to. So please, we do have a mosquito fire that is going on right now. I think Heidi's still there. I've got I do have an update on that, but I want to jump real quickly to I want to jump real quickly to Carly again so that we can discuss the upcoming employment corner. And so I'm going to share my screen with the flyer, which everyone should possibly have got, hopefully. Go ahead, Carly. What is this?
So this is our second quarterly Employment Corner workshop. We will be holding one once a quarter. It is just a workshop for clients, families, providers to come in and learn more about employment services. There is an in-person option or a virtual option. Each one we will be holding somewhere different in the community, be it at another Alta office or at one of our providers. This one will be at Pride Industries, Roseville location, and they are graciously offering to donate transportation for anyone who wants to attend but does not have transportation. So they are asking though that if a client or their family it needs transportation to register no later than September 29th. This time, and we'll be talking kind of general overview, what is community integrated employment, what are paid internship programs, and then Pam Haney from Progressive Employment Concepts will be giving a presentation on benefits counseling and will be available to answer questions at that, as that is a very, very hot topic for employment. So I encourage you, share this with any clients you serve that may be interested. If you want to come and learn more about what employment opportunities are available, you are more than welcome to. This is just to get information out there so our clients and their families have more information to work with.
Excellent. Any questions about that? Now, this flyer is something that let's see, is this something that we can have posted on our website so that we can share a link to folks too?
I've already sent it to Herman.
Okay, perfect. Excellent. So that'll
I
be
believe
going
he's
out.
in training today though, so it might take a little while.
All right. Excellent. Well, thank you very much for that. And, these types of things, this is why it's great having an employment specialist, right? If we only had community services specialists that were processing vendorizations and are doing quality assurance activities, we would not be able to do these things like job fairs and these types of activities. And so just really appreciate the work that Carly is putting towards these activities. I do want to give an update on the most recent update on the mosquito fire. I think, so what was it, Heidi? Everyone's just been praying for this rainstorm that's coming in. Are we starting El Nino 2022 here? I don't know. I have a theory, folks, that when you have a hurricane in Southern California, it leads to an El Nino. And so I know that happened the last time back in 1997, happened back in the 70s. So who knows? Maybe it'll happen this year. But let's see, we got 64,159 acres burned thus far, 20% containment, no changes to evacuation warnings. I'm assuming with the cooling weather and the rain that is forecasted for the next few days, probably no other changes forthcoming in at least over the weekend. And the fire is still moving east. That's where most of the growth is. Hard to reach, difficult terrain, not super populated, that area to my understanding. Notes that we got from the yesterday was there's cooler weather with higher humidity coming in, not much sun on the fire. There's going to be some more development on the east side of the fire. And I know I did miss my calling as a meteorologist, Carol. Thank you. I'm going to go back to school one more time and do that one for us. Terrain on the east side remains a challenge, though crews continue to look for contingency opportunities. So Heidi, I guess maybe a little bit more context from you up there about kind of what the impact is related to this. Are there, how is this impacting your office, the staff kind of up in that area, the clients, etc.?
Yeah, it has impacted clients. We had about 55 clients either in the evacuation order area or the warning area. We still have some clients who have been evacuated since the beginning of the fire and are still not able to return home yet. I can say that all of those clients are in safe places. Many of them are with friends or family outside the area. They were all contacted by our service coordinators. We had a lot of I just want to say, since there's vendors here, we had some great support from vendors, ILS workers stepping in to help. We had There was a Pride shuttle that was taking Pride clients out as needed. We had a lot of support, so that was really appreciated. But everyone is safe. We had a couple of staff who also were evacuated, so we're just waiting for further word on containment. And then, of course, there's the smoky air, so we're all kind of dealing with that. But we're just keeping an eye on it and trying to support people as best we can.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I know, Tracy gave a great update last time about, kind of what was going on. Hewitt, our emergency response coordinator, is just, this has been, I think, the first real fire where he's really been able to provide information in the manner that he's hoping to with us. And it has just been fantastic. And I know Heidi sent out a message, and I'll just share just briefly, how she really appreciated the support with this fire that's going on. And just wow, like there is a real coordinated effort amongst case management and amongst our folks from and Hewitt and the emergency coordinators to for messaging and just support, seeing what people need. And so I really appreciate it. And I think, and we could talk about this, I think this, as we're getting ready to finish up the newsletter that's coming out in October, that might be something that maybe we should look at highlighting for our entire community. What does the regional center do when we have these emergencies? Like what is our internal process? Like it's not every person for themselves, not service coordinators aren't on their own trying to figure out what to do. We have an established process now that is really led by our associate client services directors that really, I feel, is so much better than what we've had in the past when it comes to coordinating these response efforts. And so just a huge shout out to all the Alta staff that have been working on this one. Again, would have loved to have all of this mechanism in place last year for the Calder fire and, for all the other fires and floods and natural disasters that we've had. I really appreciate that the Department of Developmental Services has created these emergency coordinator positions at the regional centers to do this. All right. I'm going to go over to the department. So thank you very much, Heidi. I'm going to go over to the Department of Developmental Services website, and I am going to share my screen, and I'm going to ask Helen to go over the service access and equity grant opportunities. I think that's what I'm looking up here. There we go. And so again, as you guys are familiar with Coffee with Community Services, when we do this meeting, I like to show folks where you can locate this information. So I typically will start either on our website or I will go to the Department of Developmental Services website. Again, for our website, Alta is, better to just do the search engine. But for DDS's website, the important information is just really right here on the front page. And right on the front page, you can click on the Service Access, Equity, and Grant Program. And I'm going to ask Helen to share a little bit about what this is and then also give you an example kind of what we're doing. So take it away, Helen.
All right. Can you guys hear me? Fine.
Sound good.
Okay. All right. So the Service Access and Equity grants happen every year. Legislatively, there is $11 million allocated for diversity-related activities. So the goal is to promote equity in the system and reduce the existing disparities. So for example, Alta's population is 53% ethnically diverse and about 42% or is that right? 47% white population. Now, statewide, we are 70% ethnically diverse and only about 30% white population. Now, our issue has been since the inception of the system is that although now it's 30% white, about 75% of POS dollars are utilized by our white population, and only 30 or 25% by the ethnically diverse. So that's an issue, but that's not unique to our system. It happens in education, healthcare, and almost everywhere else. So the move is, this is one of the activities that community-based organizations and regional centers are allotted money for to come up with diversity related activities. So for this year, the funding, which is usually $11 million, has been doubled to $22 million just for this year. So it's a competitive process. So if you look at the DDS website, there's the application guidelines, and then it also tells you attachment, the different attachment where you look at how to put together your proposal. Again, it's for diversity related activities. And to give you an example, the Service Navigator program Alta did for 4 years and is now a vendor service. And that's what we want to do because it's a service that it's an alternative service, kind of like innovative service that is that helps our population that struggles with cultural and language barrier. And so with your proposal, it's usually targeted. And so you look at the POS data that we publish every year and look at the kind of the differences in POSs, because the POS data will tell you, okay, how much did we spend for our Asian population? How much did we spend for our Hispanic population and Native American? And so this grant opportunity is to come up with different activities that would be helpful to our diverse population. And you will see that there's 4
Where masks and clients are gone.
which is DDS is promoting, like education and workshop, workforce capacity, and there's 2 others. I think that covers it.
It does. And we're looking at putting one in ourselves as an example, correct?
Yes, we are. And I think one of the projects that that our diverse population, like the Hispanic community and the Russian community, that they wanted done is a center-based respite. And we wanted to make that a proposal for this year, but all of the requirements needed for licensing and all of that is going to take time. So we put that on hold, but that's something that you guys, the providers, can think about. Again, it's an innovative service. It's a requested service because we have this issue of our diverse populations not comfortable with having strangers in their home. So that is a service that they requested. So something for the providers to think about. We have annual POS meetings that we hold, and there's usually suggestions from the community during the annual POS meeting that we follow up with. So, for example, the enhanced early start services is something that has been pushed by the stakeholder community for 2 years now. So we're also looking at maybe proposing that. And if any of you are interested in the grant and your proposal, if you are going to be working with the Alta, our regional center, please reach out to us ahead of time. Because if you reach out to us a week before the proposal is due, then we won't have time to work with you on what's needed. And it's difficult to support your proposal if we only learned about it 2 days before the due date.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Helen. And Helen has a wealth of knowledge and experience in this area. And I think as we look at doing like grant applications and things like that, we really want to support our providers that are going through this. Carly and I certainly did a lot of work when it came to getting the employment grant in, and then, we've certainly received a bunch of other ones that were submitted. So look forward to hearing about folks that are submitting these as well. We would love to see, grant funds coming into our local community. It doesn't just have to be Alta that gets the grant funds. It certainly can be our local community-based organizations. I want to jump over to the FMSs and talking about the new directive that came out. Mayra Hernandez is here from Aviana. I don't know, Mayra, I don't know if you would not mind after we go over what this is, maybe sharing your thoughts. So if that would be something you'd be willing to do. So first off, I just want to share, we did receive a directive. This is not a huge surprise for people that have worked in the SDP world, self-determination program world, or I would say people that have even worked in the employment world that use basically the same FMS companies that are also helping out with paid internship programs, etc. And we were relied a lot on the FMS agencies to, in essence, take on a lot of funding responsibilities, and there's been challenges specifically related to the payments with the way the regional centers do that. And so with that, notify the FMS within 3 business days of the planning team finalizing any change in participants' spending plan. So that's number 1. And number 2, the change is that by October 1st, we need to establish a schedule by which the regional center will provide payment to FMS providers on a weekly basis, including for services that have been provided in a current month, as invoices are submitted by the FMS provider. So Mayra, could you kind of explain why that's important for FMSs, or would you be able to?
I can give some insight.
Yeah.
Some of the general, excuse me, hold on, let me bring this up. Some of the general challenges that we've, and feedback that we've heard from clients and regional centers is that there is kind of a discord in communication with regional centers and FMSs and clients, and that there's like a lag time in getting payments, and a lot of people fear that the services are going to get discontinued because of that. And so this directive was put in place in order to address these challenges and concerns that have been vocalized. And we are working on streamlining the process a little bit better. Currently, we do have regional centers that have switched from paying on a monthly basis to paying weekly, and that is very helpful for
Yeah,
us.
we I think we met with our accounting folks this morning, and they're getting ready to switch over and get those extra check runs done for the FMS companies. And
Yes.
again, certainly I think for whether you're a large FMS company or whether you're a small FMS company, taking on all of this liability that you have to pay out to people is a lot, and
It
you
also,
have to carry it. Yeah, go ahead, Meta.
right.
Yeah.
Some spending plans also have higher budgets, and so they kind of have to go through a longer period of authorization. They have to go up to the controller or other places that need to authorize the larger spending plans. So those are things that we, when we have one-on-one consultations, explain to regional centers that way we could address whatever glitches we are encountering. And ultimately, eventually, the goal is to streamline this process so that all of these things are resolved. But I'm attending all of the meetings and making a list, and a lot of regional centers during the PAC meetings are requesting updates, and I can definitely do that on a monthly basis or whenever the PAC committee meetings meet with ACRC and provide updates.
Yeah, and I saw Eric, I think, clicked out of the meeting before we got started here. And so I think my assistant, Zach, is around here somewhere in this meeting. And so maybe, Zach, you can remind me for the PAC meeting that's coming up, if we do want to have a FMS discussion, and because I think it might be helpful, and we can invite Aviana to come and do that. There is another one that came out yesterday related to the self-determination program and its adjustments to the individual budget. And so I'm going to drop this one in the chat as well. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know that I am quite ready to go live on a full discussion on it. I don't know if Jennifer Bloom is, but I don't think I am. So I think what we'll do is we'll put that one on the shelf until next week, since it's so brand new. It just came out, and then we'll go over with you. But I did put it in the chat. You can read it there, and it does discuss the increase in state minimum wage, changes in rates for vendor services, including individual budget calculations, and then changes in rates for a regional center vendor provider who's also providing SDP services. So just to let you know, I did put it in the chat, and we will give more context and be able to answer questions about it. But we just got it, so let's take a look at that one a little bit more. And SDP is a little bit of a different animal because we also have to then compare it to what our existing processes are at the regional center for getting SDP up and going. So with that, the last thing I wanted, I think, for the agenda was to just talk about the Supported Life Conference that's coming up. And so let's see, I'm going to go over to that real quickly. I'm going to share my screen, and I'm also going to, as usual, put the link in the chat for this. If I can move this thing over. Nope, maybe. There you go. And so let's see here. I'm going to go to the chat and drop it in the chat here. So just, we like to promote the Supported Life Conference. And then and on here you will see that we have, I think it's going to be Jennifer, you and Michelle, right, that are doing the or is it all the ADs?
It's all three of us plus Michelle.
Okay, there you go. So it's the
We all
80s
get
and
to go.
Michelle. What you need to know about social recreation. So they're going to be on Friday doing their presentation. So always want to promote, our local folks. You can see the Mind Institute's on here. Stephanie and Katrina Fasov, who might be familiar to Regional Center folks, especially if you read our newsletter, can see her information. She's also doing a presentation. Arturo from RCOC is doing a good presentation there on employment. I'll be doing a presentation on regional centers supporting new and innovative housing development. And again, CalAble, for those that are interested in finding out about more CalAble, Dante is going to be there doing a presentation. So want to promote that. And then last, I did forget that I wanted to have Cindy just give an update on our HCBS grants. The first thing I asked at the beginning of this meeting was for her to talk about that. So Cindy, can you give folks a heads up on kind of what you're working on as it relates to the HCBS grants?
Yes, thank you so much, John. So I'm going to try to finish my updates within 5 minutes because I know it's lunchtime and everyone is going to be hungry. So as you recall, DDS had about $5 million left over from the 2021 fiscal year. So as a result, each regional center received about $284,000 towards activities to help providers achieve HCBS compliance. So for a couple of months, Alta did have meetings with Providers Advisory Committee to develop a plan, as well as discuss the needs that the provider community has in this area. So based on these discussions, Alta was able to establish some goals and also identified some providers to work on this project. So as a result, ACRC, the first project that we're going to be working on is we are going to collaborate with VMRC to promote the DSP workforce. So this is going to include creating a website for providers to post job postings on the site, as well as host job fairs. So we're planning to have 2 major job fairs, one in Sacramento catchment area, and another one is going to be in the VMRC catchment area. Some of the funds is going to go towards a company called Swanson Communications to help support with public relations activities. And some of the funds are going to go towards Joey Travolta, who's going to be assisting us with making videos to promote the work of the DSPs. The second project that we're going to be working on is going to be working with Southside to develop a cohort of providers to deliver person-centered thinking training to our staff, providers, and families. So if your agency was part of a cohort to receive the Train the Trainer training a couple years ago, then you should have received a survey from Southside they are trying to identify how many trainers we have in this area who would be interested in participating in this project. The third project that we are working on is with Progressive. So Progressive is going to be providing technical support and develop tools and resources, as well as provide one-to-one and small group training to providers to assist providers to achieve HCBS compliance. Finally, the fourth project that we are working on is with Strategies to Empower People, STEP. They're going to provide technical assistance and training to smaller service providers and their DSPs who serve clients that are deaf and hard of hearing. So alongside with all the HCBS updates, I do want to just touch bases on some of the updates that based on the meeting that we had with DDS. So we identified about 11% of providers who have answered at least one yes response to the heightened scrutiny section of the HCBS assessment. And we realized that some of the responses could be because providers did not fully understand the extent of the question or due to the situation that we were in during the pandemic. So I am hoping to work with each of one of the providers that are identified on this list to help resolve some of the responses. So I do expect to hear from either myself or a specialist who oversees your program or home to have a further discussion about this. And the good news is, per DDS, we have only less than 40 providers who did not submit an HCBS compliance plan. So if you have not submitted a plan, please do so, as DDS is planning on sending out a directive to address providers who have not submitted the plans or who are refusing to respond. Finally, and this is going to be the last one, some of you have reached out to me to inquire about issues related to the submission of your plans, such that, do you have to separate your plans into smaller components based on each federal requirement? The response is no. Alta is not having any issues or difficulty with receiving your plans, as well as uploading your plans onto the DDS website. So, but if you want to reach out to me to maybe follow up on the submission of your plan, whether or not it's been successfully submitted, then please do reach out to me. And then DDS is planning on providing the regional center with the summaries of the plans and the reviews that they have completed. So expect to receive those from the regional center shortly as well. And I forgot to mention one thing regarding the contracts that I've been working on. So the contracts are needing to be completed by the end of this month. So, and then we need to encumber the funds by the end of June of 2025. So with that, yeah.
Thank you very much, Cindy. There was a question about the workforce surveys. When are we going to hear about the workforce surveys and whether or not people are going to get paid for doing those workforce surveys? Refresh my recollection, folks. That was supposed to be $8,000 per survey, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm reading the D1 allocation correctly, it appears that 187 vendors of ours completed their surveys, if I'm looking at that correctly. I haven't seen the money anywhere in an allocation until this week because we got our allocation. So I don't know, we're still working out the process of exactly how this is going to be delivered, but the money exists. And I will just say, it appears that we were I think we were about the third largest regional center when it came to responses from our vendors. So I just shout out to all of you vendors because you guys did a great job with that. I will meet with Iqbal today and see if I can get a very clear, like, okay, so we have the money in the D1 for the workforce survey. How does that end up, like, are they expecting us to pay it out? Is it an expectation that it's still going to go through the contractor with DDS? So we'll let you know about that. And I just want to give you a shout out, all of you, for the HCBS stuff that Cindy was talking about, because it was really nice meeting with DDS and them saying, hey, Alta's vendors are getting theirs in. They're getting it done. They really look at the difference between really large regional centers like us and very small regional centers when they compare regional centers. And they really noted not only that Cindy has been fantastic in supporting DDS through all of these HCBS efforts through the meetings that they attend, but also that our service providers are really being responsive and getting things done. So just love to leave on a positive note and a shout out to all of you guys that have put that work in, because yeah, we don't want the nasty letter from DDS about what happens if you don't do it. And for us, just overwhelmingly, you guys have been giving responses. So thank you all for that. And again, the money does exist for your workforce surveys. We know it exists now because we've seen it in writing. I'll just be providing an update then on the next steps on how you guys are going to actually get paid for it. So, all right, thank you very much, folks. Hope folks have a great weekend. Get a little bit of rain coming in. It'll be exciting to get that fire tamped down a little bit. So take care. Have a great weekend. We'll look forward to talking to folks next week. And welcome Helen to your first Coffee with Community Services as our new community services manager. We're going to have another manager joining us in another couple weeks, Michelle McDonald. So, all right, take care, folks. Have a great one.
Thing here.